Hi, hello, friends. Welcome back to Night Court Narrative. I am Elvish. If you guys are new here, hello. I hope everyone is doing fantastic. We are finally into the new year. 2026 is going to be insane. Today we are discussing Caraval. I did ask, there was a tiny little poll that asked, what series you guys would like to see going into the new year, and this was definitely one of them. So I am discussing Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Don't hate me if that's not her name. I think that's her name. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not gonna lie. This was kind of a rough book, and I'm not saying it's rough because of the writing or anything of that nature. So definitely don't take it that way. This book was actually very, very good. However, as far as my review goes, it's going to be kind of a short video because I don't know. I don't know. I feel like, and I'm not going to make these words my own, but I was really discussing it with a friend, and she mentioned how, the way that the author writes made it kind of difficult to, how do I want to say, or how did she say it? The way the author writes makes it difficult to imagine the descriptions or whatnot. And I could not agree more to that because I ended up messaging her and I was like, bro, like this book was really good. And typically, whenever I read, I'm one of those people that I see a movie playing in my head. But this book was very difficult. Like, there were a lot of times where the author would describe the most magical scene in the world, but my brain was completely blank. And I have no idea why this is the only book in history that I've ever read where I can't imagine what is being said. But it kind of made it a little rough. And I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying it was rough because of how the book was, but I don't really have a lot to say. I will start off by saying, Caraval is pretty cool. It's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of set in like the oldest times. We do have Scarlett and Tella, sisters trying to get away from a very abusive father. We have a sailor, which is Julian. I'm still kind of unsure his exact role. I understand he was one of the workers that was working with Legend in Caraval, but I am still a little bit confused on that. So I do definitely want to reread Caraval. However, I am starting Legendary now, so maybe it'll make more sense going forward. But we end up having Julian. He is this nice sailor boy. He ends up taking them to Caraval, and here that's where they start playing their game. Tella does get kidnapped, and she is I'm going to say she's like the final thing. Like, you have to find her in order to win Caraval, and I don't know if that's exactly true, but that's what Scarlett ends up having to do. She finally wins once she does find her sister, but then we find out it was all a ruse and her sister wasn't actually kidnapped, and her sister had plans prior to coming with Legend on how to evade their abusive father while also making a name for themselves, if you will. And yeah, I was very shocked to find out though that her sister was the one that told their father where to find them. So this cat mouse game that we have throughout the book was quite literally her sister's fault, and her sister was never in any danger whatsoever. She was just sitting up in her tower like little Miss Rapunzel, watching everything happen. And yeah, no, it was a wild ride. I will say though, the world itself gave very much Alice in Wonderland, Little Nightmares, and what was the other one? Oh, I said another one. I can't remember. I have it right in front of me though. It was Little Nightmares. Let me see. Phantasma and Alice in Wonderland. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, Phantasma came out after. I understand, but it did give me very much like Phantasma vibes, but with how the world acted and how the world moved, it did give me little nightmare vibes because Legend kind of feels, how do I say, Legend doesn't necessarily, I'm not convinced that Legend is who he says he is, and I understand people reading this whole series, you're gonna be like, Elvish, you're absolutely fucking retarded, and I'm sorry, but like, I don't see, I feel like going throughout the series we're gonna find out that Legend is a bigger bad guy than what we originally like thought he was. So he is giving me very much Little Nightmare vibes. I kind of find it like the whole world not what it seems. I know they do kind of discuss like seeing Caraval in the day. It's not as magical, it's not as vibrant, and it's not as lively as when it is at night. And that is something that is very, that's something that hit very hard for me, because that's where the whole Little Nightmares comes in. Because, you know, when they're talking about Caraval, they always talk about the livelihood of it. Everything is bright, vibrant colors, there's sparkles, there's everything that catches your eye and forces you to practically not look away. But then during the daytime, it's very bland, very monotoned. I think they even said it was like the fog itself was a light tan or some shit, and it gives me a very spooky vibe. It makes me feel like there's something behind the scenes going on, even more so than what we found out in book 1. So I am definitely very curious in book 2. I know book 2, okay, I don't know. I shouldn't say I know. Book 2, I have been told that it is about her sister. So I am wondering if book 2 is Caraval but just in her POV. Like, I'm wondering if book 1 and book 2 are the exact same book, but just one is in Scarlett's POV and one is in her sister's POV. So that will be very interesting. But I will say though, kind of going off of what I said before, you know, the author does really good with her descriptions. I will agree on that. However, the author does have a tendency, I've noticed, to say a whole lot of nothing. She uses, to describe one singular thing, she uses upwards of like 7 to maybe 10 different descriptive words that, in my personal opinion, typically do not go together, but she uses them to create this massive picture of what she's talking about, whether or not it's a wardrobe, the world around her, buildings, relationships, anything like that. And I think after a while, the amount of descriptions and imagery that she writes throughout her book, it kind of gets muddied, in my opinion. It kind of loses effect, like I said, in my opinion, because you could have this whole vibrant world, you're telling me all about it, I'm living it up, I'm soaking it up, I'm loving every second of what I'm reading. But then as the descriptive words keep going, I'm like, okay, is it this or is it that? Oh, now we're adding this. Oh, okay, so how does this and that also mean that? You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Does that make sense to y'all? I don't know. I just feel like too much of nothing was said in this book. I really do wholeheartedly feel like 90% of this book was just describing shit. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. This book was really good. I think I ended up giving it, what, a 4-star? It wasn't bad. It really, really wasn't. And I really did enjoy my time. I just have a hard time because, like I said, whenever I read books, I see images in my head pop up of what I am reading. And sometimes I have whole movie scenes in my brain. But in this book, it was like I had nothing but crickets. And I had to message and I was like, bro, like, am I broken? Am I just not the typical reader? when it comes to this book, and I was very validated with the response of someone who actually really loved this book as well. So I don't know. I think that's all I'm gonna say about it. I do really like Julian. Julian, I didn't like him at first. He was kind of a sleazebag. He was kind of scummy, but towards the end, I really, really did like him. I was not a massive fan of Scarlett either. I personally found Scarlett to be very whiny, and I mean, I'm sorry. She was a pussy. I'm sorry. She was. She was one of those that was scared of absolutely everything. A flash of light scared her. A fly scared her. Her own thoughts scared her. And I'm just like, okay. She was very, very, very annoying. But I do think her character development throughout the book was very, very good. Halfway through the book, she finally grew up and finally realized that if she doesn't start making sacrifices and if she doesn't start actually playing the game, she might lose her sister forever. This is obviously before knowing that it truly was planned all along, but she, you know, with her not knowing that, she did finally start stepping up, and she did start actually playing the game and thinking as a rational adult rather than a child. And I really did enjoy her character at the end. It was very, very well done, and it was pretty much night and day. She was very mature at the end, something that I didn't see happening at the beginning of the book, so that was really nice. I do quite enjoy seeing that growth. Tella, I saw a video on TikTok. Someone said that they didn't like book 2 specifically because they didn't like Tella. That is very interesting to me because book 1, I enjoyed Tella a lot, actually. I found, especially at the beginning, I found Tella to be quite enjoyable. I did hate the fact that Tella did throw her sister under the bus whenever it came to kissing Julian, which of course got heat on her sister the entire time. But I don't know, I actually really liked her personality. I liked her boldness. I liked I don't know, I liked her confidence. So I really think going into book 2, I might enjoy it a little bit more because now I do have kind of a sense on who the main character is going to be. And now, of course, she could digress and she could become a very annoying character, but I'm going to stay positive. And yeah, I'm really excited for book 2. I'm really, really excited to see what goes on. I'm really excited to see a little bit more of Legend. I don't know if he's a part of book 2, but I would love to see a little bit more of Legend to see if he truly is the monster that I believe him to be, or if maybe he's just putting on a show for, obviously, Caraval. Because everyone needs a hero, everyone needs a villain. I'm wondering if he's just putting on a show to be the villain of the story, but in actuality, he's probably a really decent guy. So I am quite interested to see that. I am interested to see if there's a little bit more Julian in this book. Or if there is a love interest for Tella, maybe. But yeah, that's really all I have. I'm so sorry. You know, if you guys have seen my videos, I am a little bit more in depth with my review, and I talk a little bit more about the situation and everything and anything. But I don't know, I really didn't get much from this book, and I really contemplated even recording this video because I don't want to just say a whole lot of nothing. But I've had plans on doing this series all year long. This series was actually supposed to be done last March or April, and here it is, January the following year. So, you know, and I still really want to read the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, but you have to read this series first. So, bear with me. Episode 2 might be 1,000 times better. But until then, I hope you guys have a very, very, very lovely day. I hope you guys... I want to hear your resolutions. Do you guys have any New Year's resolutions? And for 2025, did you guys keep your resolutions? I am definitely so interested. So let me know down below. If you love this book, let me know. If you hated this book, let me know. Let's discuss it in the comments. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.